never thought that I would be making a video about this. And I decided to make a video about this because when I first went through this situation, I tried to look up videos online and I couldn't find anyone that had been through something like this, but I know for a fact that I am not the only person who has been in this position. So I really wanted to make this video to help someone out there who is going through this, let them know that you are not the only one. This is a story of a man who broke my heart in a very, very different way than the person that I talked about in another video that I made, which I will put in the description below and a card on the screen. You can watch that video after you watch this one. It was a very different type of connection, and he had a very different personality than that person. So just as a disclaimer before I get started, this story involves another person. So there is a whole other side of this that you are not hearing. This is just from my perspective. I am not going to speak anything from his perspective because I am not him. I don't know what he's thinking. Also, I'm not making this video with any type of malicious intent. So where to get started? I guess we'll start from the very, very beginning when I first met him and how I felt. So I met this man about a year after things ended between that other guy who broke my heart. And I remember when I first matched with him on Hinge, I took an immediate attraction to him. He had some very interesting prompts. He had some really nice photos. He just seemed like a really, really sweet guy. So when he asked me to meet up with him, I was really excited, and I just had a gut feeling that it was going to go well. He did ask for my number before I met up with him for the first time, and I don't typically give out my number before I meet someone in person, but with him, I really felt like he was going to embody everything that I had envisioned in my mind, which was just this really sweet, genuine person. So I decided to give him my number, and then we schedule a day to meet up. And I remember the first time I met up with him, it was a Wednesday evening, so I had work that day, and I put on this really cute outfit to work because I knew I was gonna meet up with him, and we were gonna go get tea and coffee. So while we were having our tea and coffee, we were talking, and we discovered that I knew someone that he was related to. So then we decided to take a walk along the East River on the Manhattan side, and it was a beautiful, beautiful summer day. And when we were walking along the East River, it brought back a lot of memories from the time that I walked along the East River with the other guy that I talked about in my other video. You know those helicopters that can land in water? So there were 3 of them that flew right by us and landed in the water, and he made a joke. He's like, "Oh yeah, I planned that for you." He told me that he was really into like historical films and history and stuff. My first thought about him after that first date was that he was really funny and that he was really into history and that he was a really easy to talk to person. So I guess he did embody everything that I thought he was gonna be. We got along really well, and we went on 4 more dates, so we went on 5 dates total, and the 5th date was when he broke it off with me. One of the things that I really liked about this guy was that he planned really fun things to do for our dates. Like we went to play pool one time, and we went to an escape room one time, and those are 2 things that I would not think to do, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun when he invited me to go. I was really excited to meet him each time, and it seemed like we were getting along really well. He didn't make me feel like I was walking on eggshells like that first person that broke my heart did. However, and of course there's gotta be a however, because life just can't be simple like that. He was Jewish, and I know that religion can be a deal breaker for some people, especially if they're super, super religious. They typically want to be with someone who is also the same religion because it's just easier to get along with them because you have a common way of thinking. So I remember on our 4th date, I had asked him if he only wanted to be with someone who was Jewish. And he said that if it was just dating, they don't have to be Jewish, but For marriage, he only wanted to marry someone who is either born Jewish or who converted. I am not Jewish. Conversion was just not an option for me. That is not even something that was on the table, not something that I considered at all, because I was not going to sacrifice myself to be with someone to satisfy their needs. And that is one of the strongest things that you could do as a person, is to walk away from something because you would have to sacrifice yourself. During that 4th date, he did mention how Judaism passes through the woman, meaning the kids are only Jewish if the mom's Jewish. So that poses more of an issue. I remember leaving that date just feeling absolutely heartbroken. I acted as if I was okay. So I called an Uber and I went home, and I want to say there was about a week between our 4th and 5th date. And during that 1 week, I remember searching this information because I had no idea that that was a thing, that Judaism only passes through the woman. I looked more into this and I realized that this was a thing, and it just absolutely crushed my heart because I knew that things would have to end between us sooner or later. I texted him one day and I asked him to meet up again, and he was very, very down. But I went in to this date knowing that that would probably be the last time that I would see him. And I was totally right, which was the opposite of what happened with that other guy that broke my heart. I went in not knowing that that would be the last time I would ever see him. But this guy, I had a very strong feeling that this would be the last time that I would ever see him, and that he would break things off with me on this date. So we went to a ramen place. We talked about some things. I was going to Paris. You guys might remember that. I did make a video about that trip. And then he basically brings up what I don't want to hear. And he says, remember the last time you asked me if I wanted to be with someone who was Jewish? And I don't remember exactly what he said, but he went on this whole spiel and that he has to marry someone who is Jewish. And I was not Jewish and was not willing to convert because that is not something that I wanted to do. That was kind of towards the end, and after that, I left. He walked me out, and I called an Uber, and I had no words. I felt like I had really built a connection to him. I feel like I'm getting kind of emotional. After that, I said goodbye to him. The Uber came, I got into the car. That car ride back to my apartment, I was trying to hold back the tears because I knew that this wasn't gonna work out. And I remember I got back to my apartment and I was going to Paris the next day. So he breaks things off with me the day before I leave for Paris. And so I had to spend that entire trip thinking about this. In a way, I'm glad that I had a trip because that was kind of a distraction from what I had just gone through. After I got back from my trip, I started thinking about this whole situation again. And I was really afraid to text him for some reason. Even though it didn't end badly, I decided to send him a text message. We talked on the phone, and that was the last time I ever heard his voice. It took me a couple months to get over him. This was the guy that I talked about in my 2023 reflection video, where I said how I met a person, but because of external factors, we couldn't be together. So we ended things in September. The next couple of months go by, and then the holidays comes around. And I remember I wrote him this like e-card, and I kind of wrote what I was thinking for the past 3 months, and I sent it to him. He responds and he says, "Oh, happy holidays to you too." He didn't really say much. I did not respond to that message. And after that text message, I knew that he's just not gonna have a change of heart. So I had to be the big girl and move on. And the reason why I reached out to this guy over that guy who I talked about in that other video is because this guy was not toxic at all. It didn't end in a bad way or anything. And so that's why I felt like we could still maybe get along even just as friends. Although having a connection that was more than just a friendship would be really hard to lead to just a friendship between us. So I guess the big question is, why was he seeing me knowing that I wasn't Jewish if he only wanted to marry someone who was Jewish? So I talked about this with some of my friends and family. Some people have told me it's probably because he was wanting you to convert. Some people have said he was maybe using that as an excuse to break things off with you, which is possible because I don't know why he kept seeing me knowing that it would eventually end between us. Some people have told me that he probably wasn't looking for something serious, and that's why he was okay being with someone who wasn't Jewish because he wasn't really dating for marriage. That's also very possible. Some people have said that it's because he was torn, meaning he wanted to be with you, but he also wanted his religion, but he knew that he could only have one, so he didn't know which one to choose. I like to think the best in people and that somebody wouldn't just waste my time like that, but I understand that the world is very big and there's all different types of people out there, and there are people that would absolutely just waste your time and string you along like that. This is something that I've been wondering ever since things ended between us, and it's probably something that I will never know the answer to. And I just want to say that I am not upset at him for only wanting to marry someone who was Jewish, since he was Jewish, because I think if I was in his position, I would probably want the same thing. However, I do feel like he was leading me on and making me think that there was a future for us when really in his mind there wasn't. I guess he'll just always be this fantasy guy that lives in my mind, him and the other guy who broke my heart. But I hope that he finds what he's looking for, and maybe we'll cross paths one day. Okay, that is it for this video. I feel like it was kind of rambly. I didn't really plan this video out, so it's probably all over the place. But I want to know in the comments if you have ever been in a similar situation as this, and I hope you also subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and give this video a thumbs up, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!